Hi guys, this is Dr. Keith Pressey and I'll be your presenter. First off, why do we need to know this information that we're about to see? The short answer is because we use technology all the time in the virtual classroom. But here are some more practical reasons why you should really pay attention to this information and how it pertains to you. If we use technology effectively to connect with our students and they're engaged in their studies, they're more bound to stick around longer until the finish line. In other words, commencement. So what does that mean to you? There's definitely a correlation between higher enrollments and job stability or job security. So the more you know about instructional technology, generally speaking, and all other things being equal, the more you'll keep electronically signing those teaching contracts that were offered. Another reason is that if we have access to tools, we really should be using them. We're all very well aware of the limitations of online learning. Students often feel like they're working in a vacuum. So when they can actually see their instructor on video, not just read an email, which is also good, but a lot of times not quite as effective as the video. Especially another reason why we need to know about these tools is that if students need help with them, if they decide to use these tools as well. So here's a scenario. Imagine if you took just a plain old text, a couple of paragraphs, and turned that into a PowerPoint. You add a few photos of your family, your pets, places you visited. Excuse me. That can really make a difference to the student to make a stronger connection. Now imagine if you took that PowerPoint and added voice narration to it, which would make it much more personable and much more friendly, much more people friendly. We're going to make stronger connections with our students. And frankly, let's face it, that's what we're after here. Due to the nature of online learning, like I said, it can often feel like we're working in a vacuum. Audio video helps to overcome that. So what we're going to do today is to look at some of the audio video tools out there and see what's on the horizon. So whether you're very savvy using audio video tools, or you're just kind of looking forward to the first video that you make, or somewhere in the middle, you should find this information very helpful and very meaningful, and hopefully it adds some value. There's an ongoing project in Australia that helps teachers understand the pedagogies of online learning and how to apply those concepts and principles. They combine video and PDFs into their training modules. And here's what they had to say about the effectiveness of the videos as a medium to deliver content to students. I'll give you a few moments to check out the highlighted areas that you see in front of you. That's pretty powerful stuff, wouldn't you agree? Here are some more benefits to video. It increases retention and student success. Students can replay videos at their own convenience. They can pause and resume, just like you may be doing to highlight or listen to important areas on this video. There's also increased mobility. Students can review feedback on mobile devices on the go outside of Schoology. So if they're taking public transportation somewhere, they can have a video or they can have an MP3 file and they can view the content or consume the content as they're going along with their daily, everyday lives. That's pretty cool. Video also helps to overcome inherent challenges of engagement in online classrooms. In other words, having the instructor or faculty member explain some of the more difficult concepts through a video, perhaps using a blackboard and diagramming or flow charting, some of the processes or some of the concepts can really help to reinforce the learning and help students to understand concepts and principles. And we've also seen that student feedback indicates a greater value placed on video feedback rather than written. I recently had the opportunity to conduct an informal study in a couple of my classes. So here's what happened. During a recent course revision of this particular course, an additional audiovisual element was added to one of the discussion questions. The prompt asked students to use audio-video tools to develop and deliver their posts to the discussion board, which I thought was pretty interesting and a very novel way of getting students hands-on opportunities with these tools in Schoology. I happened to be running two classes of the same course at the same time. One class fully participated while the other class fully non-participated. In other words, one class gave all text-based responses just like a normal discussion board, while in the other class, each student created either an audio file or a video file, which of course included audio. Again, interestingly enough, in the class where all the students posted just text, the other students followed suit. In the class where the first initial post was a video response, all the rest of the students posted a video or audio response. One solution to this follow the leader action might be for instructors to try seeding the discussion area with a video response. That would encourage other students to follow suit. As I was viewing and listening to some of the students' video discussion responses, I felt more connected to them. I felt that there was a stronger bond that was made, which made the post itself more meaningful when I was able to see the student, listen to the inflections of the student, just like we saw a couple minutes ago on this video about what we had seen from other studies. And it definitely rings true at CSU Global when students use the Schools in Toology to post their discussions. Students also appreciated the opportunity to use those tools as well.
Hello class, welcome to week 4. First of all, I'm really grateful we get to do a video message for our discussion posts. I'm a little out of practice, so I'm glad we get to do this. So jumping right in, how do we use instant messaging or text messaging at work?
In the class where all participants created a video or audio file, I took a poll and asked the students, based on your experience, how much value did creating a video or sound file add to your discussion experience last week? And the two people who responded noted that they saw a great deal of value from those video discussions, and this is really important. As we all know, when students mention value when they're talking about education, that's something that we need to key on and look into even further. And obviously, having students create audio files for discussions is one of those things that adds value that we should look into further. Let's begin our discussion about webinars with Zoom. That's a tool that most, if not all of us, are familiar with. That is the tool within Schoology. And the beauty, besides being able to record to the cloud, is its sharing capabilities. If you have any tabs open or anything up on your computer that you'd like to push out to your audience to have them see it, whether in real time or just a static picture, Zoom is the way to go. It's easy to use once you get the hang of it. It's very practical, and you can talk to others in real time, or the recordings can be viewed offline when it records to the cloud. Now, when it comes to external meeting software, Adobe Connect, GoToMeeting, or Google Hangout are three of the more popular tools that are being used. I've got pretty extensive experience in Adobe Connect. A school that I used to teach for required that we conducted 2.5-hour live sessions every week, and that was done through Adobe Connect. So during those webinars, we went over the course material, we viewed examples, and we discussed topics through chat, phone, and video. They were very dynamic sessions with a whole lot of interaction. The course was critical thinking, so I was able to ask students to relay their thoughts in a live setting. And I used George Carlin sound clips, Monty Python clips, etc. It was pretty, like I said, it was pretty dynamic. I was also able to break the students into groups and allow them to collaborate in small teams. So webinar tools really can work very well, and that's what we've seen. Some of the purposes or uses of webinars: you can dialogue one-on-one with students, you can conduct get-to-know sessions, interactive lectures, etc. Okay, now let's talk about some audio tools. Within Schoology, we have the audio program, just like you see in front of you. The tools within Schoology are very good at what they do, but both the audio and the video tool have one, I call it a severe limitation, and that is something to consider when using audio-visual technology, is that you want to have a pause and resume button. To demonstrate what I mean, please listen to the following two short examples of audio feedback. Hi Larry, this is Dr. Pressey, and here's my feedback to your Week 2 Critical Thinking assignment. I'm on page 1, and I appreciate that your running header is in all caps, and I like your second paragraph where you fleshed out the concept of isolationism. Now I'm on page 3, and in your first paragraph, you da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Hi Sally, this is Dr. Pressey, and here is my audio feedback to your Week 2 Critical Thinking assignment. I like the fact that on page 1, you introduced the topic and you had a really strong introduction. Nice job. Okay, I'm on the top of page 2, and I see that you're starting to delve into a whole nother topic altogether, so try to keep things within scope of this assignment. Okay, now I'm on page 4, and I see that you fleshed out the details very well with this particular assignment, and I just wanted to say nice job on that. This paper is looking really good. So obviously, example 1 has no pause and resume button. So by doing this, we are requiring our students to sit through about 8, 9, or 10 minutes of us reading their assignment with little bits of comments here and there. In the second example, using the pause button and then resuming to record, the student gets all the comments very efficiently, one after another. There aren't a lot of what we call in the radio business dead air, because that's when we lose listeners and that's when we lose students, when there's just a lot of silence. And requiring our students to listen to a 10-minute audio file for 1.5 minutes or 2 minutes worth of actual comments isn't really respecting their time. So that's something to take into consideration. So when we're looking for audio tools, we want to find those with at least that feature. And one of the features, Audacity, which is free, does have that. Audacity has been the free go-to software for at least a decade or so. I'm sure there's other audio tools out there, but Audacity is one that can run on a Mac or Windows and is very solid and consistent and reliable. Looking at the purpose and use of audio files, feedback when grading is a really good use for an audio file. As we just demonstrated, students can take those MP3s with them on the bus, or they can go for when they go walking their dog, and they can listen to feedback from their instructor. Also, discussion responses, I've seen a lot of audio responses that work really well. I think one of the best uses of audio is for introductions in the beginning of a class, or perhaps in the beginning of a week or in a weekly update. Audio files work really well to make a good solid connection to match those learners' preferences, which are auditory. Hi class, this is Dr. Pressey and I'll be your instructor slash facilitator for this course. Let's go over some of my expectations. Blah, 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 blah. Cut. Just like the audio tool that we discussed, the video tool within Schoology is very handy. It's right there to use, just a couple of mouse clicks away to get it engaged, and you can start shooting video within a matter of seconds. Again, as in the audio tool that we saw, there is a problem because of the lack of a pause and resume button. Now, if you already know what you're going to say, for example, if you have an introduction written out and you want to create a video where you speak to your students with what you have written down, then this tool is great. If you're looking for alternatives to Schoology, any of the software programs that you see on your screen will do just fine. Jing is a really popular tool. It does have a 5-minute time limitation to it, but that's fine because best practices say that videos should only last 3 to 5 minutes in duration, because after that point we tend to lose viewers. They drop off after that point of time. So a 5-minute video is fine, and Jing does this really well, and any of the other software applications, and they work very well too. As well as purposes and use, videos work really, really well with introductions, feedback when grading, discussion responses, or more serious student issues that require one-on-one FaceTime. Let's talk about presentation tools. And of course, any discussion about presentation tools has to start off with PowerPoint because it's everybody's favorite tool. Microsoft PowerPoint is ubiquitous. It's all over the place. It's on everybody's computer just about. Perhaps the most effective tool there is, as long as best practices are followed. Suggested uses. Faculty introductions. I've used a PowerPoint for some of my classes, and it's really gotten good reviews from students who didn't want any narration, but they did want to see something more about their instructor than just a paragraph about here's where I've been. So there is definitely a need in the presentation world for PowerPoint. With PowerPoint, if you did want to turn that into a video, it's easy to save your presentation into that format. It saves the movie then as an MOV file, and from there the file can be imported into any movie making or screencasting tool and edited and published from there. If you're inserting sound files into a PowerPoint, which a lot of people do and a lot of students want to do, be aware that it may be problematic. First of all, make sure that the sound files travel, so to speak, with the PPT or PPTX file when you post that PowerPoint somewhere else besides on your computer. Often I see students who have gone through the trouble of creating sound files for each slide on their PowerPoint, but then those sound files don't work because they still reside on the student's or user's hard drive. So that's definitely something to watch for. If you want to watch a really good presentation on how not to create PowerPoint slides, please click the link in front of you and then return back to this video when you're done. There are also other presentation tools such as Prezi and PresentMe. From a technical standpoint, it's easier to insert videos into Prezi than it is in PowerPoint, and it's far more reliable too that the video will play without glitches. Probably because Prezi is web-based and is not dependent on our machine's speed or operating system in order to play the content that's embedded on PowerPoints. I've seen Prezis used at speaking conferences, and they were very effective. I've seen some really good ones from students as well. PresentMe is really good if you're a fan of using software that's entirely web-based. It can show you on the right side of the screen and a blackboard or whatever you'd like on the left side. Speaking of educational pricing, it usually is much lower than full retail, but do keep in mind that the educational software and hardware may be tax deductible when tax time rolls around, and that's what I do every year. I itemize all of my educational expenses, and it really helps out too. By the way, I'm just giving you a small sample here of some of the presentation tools and other tools. You can easily find more information by Googling presentation tools or audio tools like Audacity or any other key search phrase. There's lots of good information to be found online, and it's going to be the most current as well. So do check that out. Please read these key takeaways about screencasting. If you want to use one of the simplest, most basic screencasting tools that are out there that is well supported through how-to videos, check out Jing. Yes, it's got a 5-minute time limit, but our videos for the most part shouldn't exceed that anyway, generally speaking. One of the cool things about Screencast-O-Matic is that it not only allows you to make scripted videos, but it also shows you how. And that's one of the things that you should look for when searching for tools are tutorials and support from the developers. This is an example of speech to text, period. New line. New line. I am using the software program, Dragon Dictate, in order to demonstrate how convenient, delete how a software program can be used to create text-based documents using narration, period. New line, over and out, exclamation point. And this is another way that we use speech to text. I hit the microphone button. Hi Laura, I'm just leaving work and I'll be home for dinner by about 6:30 tonight. Thanks, see you soon, bye. And let's see if it worked. Hi Laura, I'm just leaving work and I'll be home for dinner by about 6:30 tonight. Thanks, see you soon, bye. And there you have it, another demonstration of speech to text for your edification. And then of course, don't forget to hit the send button. Here's a word of caution when using speech to text. Make absolutely sure that you review, preview, proofread, whatever it is that you are dictating before you hit the send or submit button. This cannot be emphasized enough. The accuracy of the software has definitely increased in the last decade. I remember experimenting with speech software 10 years ago, and the accuracy wasn't nearly as good as it is today. So that's a definite plus. Dictation software also helps us to increase our efficiency when facilitating our courses, whether it's grading papers or writing discussion posts. But like I said, do proofread. Here's one more piece of technology that we dare not forget about when talking about tools we can use to interact with our students. Don't forget the old reliable telephone. Suggested uses: we can interact with students one-on-one by using the telephone. We can have phone calls to clarify requirements, and we can also use the phone to answer student questions and concerns. Very important. A lot of times when there's a student issue that we've gone back and forth a couple times on email, the matter gets cleared up within a 10 or 15 minute phone call nearly every single time. So do keep that in mind and keep it as a tool in your toolbox. The demand for cloud storage today is high, whether it's for our own personal use or for business or commercial purposes, such as in higher education. With the solid data handling that the cloud offers, schools in higher education don't have to worry about network infrastructure, high maintenance costs, and incompatible systems. These are some of the benefits that the cloud offers. About 70% of higher education institutions in the U.S. use cloud storage for their email services. Some of the benefits: it helps meet students' need with mobile devices, and more on those later. The ability to scale services with cloud storage is evident in MOOCs, where it's difficult to estimate the usage beforehand due to the nature of the open source information and exchange of information. The cloud also offers resiliency, agility, and speed. Because of where the hardware is located, cloud computing can cover a much larger geographical area than local services. So if there is an outage on campus, students may still maintain access via the cloud. Software upgrades are smaller and much more manageable than on-premises, where local IT personnel need to push out large updates periodically. So as far as change management goes, fewer users are affected when changes need to be done to the infrastructure. Servers operating in the cloud are faster and more agile than local equipment. Cloud storage also allows for greater collaboration. With the information available on such a wide scale, this allows for better interaction of teams and wider dispersion of data when making decisions. Backing up to the cloud. I can tell from my own personal use that my failure to back up to the clouds for my pictures meant that I lost all those pictures when I lost my telephone. So that was a lesson that I learned to encourage me to use the cloud for my own personal use, but even more so when it comes to education and keeping all those records and backups of those records intact. So where will cloud computing be in the next 20 or 30 years or more? What about the security concerns? How can we keep all of this remote data that's locked up in large server farms secure so that access will be limited and restricted to only those entities with rightful permissions? What other questions come to mind when we're talking about cloud computing in the future? What do you think? This is a screenshot of the Second Life virtual reality program. Studies have been done to determine the efficacy or practicality of using avatar-based applications to teach at the high school or post-high school levels. As students use avatars to perform common everyday activities, they're actually acting out how those activities should be done based on each student's value system. Many of today's students can be considered digital natives, as compared to some of the rest of us who are probably considered digital dinosaurs. As such, many students, especially younger ones who've been weaned on iPads as toddlers, see Second Life as a way to collaborate, troubleshoot, and role-play much more effectively than perhaps even in real life. For example, a teacher may use an avatar to help a real student improve her time management skills. Instead of the emphasis being placed on the student, which may be too directive a method, the teacher and the student may track the avatar's movements and activities throughout the week and try to find some spare time in the week to devote to important things, or to prioritize important activities to make sure they all get done. That's where this software is most beneficial. It's almost like an electronic role-playing game. Two other factors that are common with online students is the feeling of isolation and loneliness. Using virtual reality programs helps to overcome that through social presence. When groups of students are involved in programs like Second Life, they can relate to the avatars in the game and discover new ways of learning that far exceed the Socratic method. So how can viewing life in a virtual world, which is really what we're talking about here, help us solve problems? Well, first of all, it's less costly. Working out solutions that can be seen and discussing the possible impacts of those actions on a screen allows us to safely work out the answers to our problems. Visiting foreign locations is a whole lot cheaper through a computer screen than flying to the actual destination. Although it's not quite the same, it still has a lot of value. It's almost like the real thing. Imagine going through the Louvre, or perhaps more practical, a house for sale, without ever stepping foot in the house through the 360-degree camera angles that are offered. That's another demonstration of virtual reality. To a lot of students, the computer screen is less threatening. We may be able to understand concepts that are happening on a computer screen more so than in real life. Downfalls: virtual reality can be expensive for initial setup. So while it can't replace human contact, virtual reality can certainly supplement it, almost like a staging area for the real thing. When we talk about adaptive technology, we're talking about hardware and software that helps people with special needs by using automation and technology to access information. We're talking screen readers here, braille printers, etc. It's using technology to deliver content. When we're talking about adaptive technology, we're talking about a form of personalized learning, where the software or system reacts based on student input. So whatever the student or user enters, that determines what the user sees on the next screen. As more boomers head towards retirement, with Gen Xers following in their heels, it's becoming more important to add accessibility tools to overcome physical limitations. One example that I don't mind sharing is that I find myself toggling on the closed captioning of TV shows and movies more often, especially if there are other conversations going on in the room and I can't differentiate one bit of dialogue from the other. It's these type of tools that we'll look into in this segment. When I started researching this, I quickly found this study from the publication On Higher Ed. In that study, Blackboard, the LMS people, looked at accessibility rates at 20 universities during the past 5 years. They looked at 21 million pieces of course content from 700,000 courses. Those are definitely good enough numbers to at least make for an interesting discussion. The first thing that struck me about this article is that when we think of accessibilities, the phrase audio-visual automatically comes to mind. But there are other programs and devices besides screen readers and braille readers that are all part of the accessibility effort. When it comes to accessibility, we're not quite there yet. We're talking about items like PDFs and other written content that cannot be converted to spoken words, and that's a concern. Those are the types of situations where we need more work on accessibility, and that's why we're taking this look ahead to see what's on the horizon as far as accessibility tools and what we need to do and what some of the challenges are. Check out some of the accessibility features that are currently available on PCs and laptops. Now we'll take a look at how specific tools can help users, students, etc. with specific conditions. Speech recognition can help those with writing problems, and that's what we looked at before with dictation. Another tool that can help those with attention deficit disorders or ADD is the opposite of speech recognition, which is optical character recognition. That's when the computer reads text to the student or to the user. And also computer flowcharts, which I found personally interesting, turns ideas into a picture or flowchart. There is a new Blackboard accessibility tool called Ally. It integrates closely with learning management systems or LMSs. The software scans for disability issues and converts that content to make it more accessible. For instance, it will convert the text into electronic braille or an e-publication format and audio. It also builds analytics on the fly and incorporates them into its reports. This is pretty exciting stuff, and it's a tool that definitely makes inroads on filling in some of the gaps when it comes to helping those with disability issues. Before we leave this section, I would highly encourage you to go into the settings on your phone, on your tablet, or on your laptop and take a look at the accessibility section. You'll be amazed at some of the features that your device can do when it comes to helping people overcome some of their limitations. Let's take a look at increased mobility with our mobile devices. Increased mobile usage means increased accessibility. These days, there is Wi-Fi everywhere, it seems, even in cars, rolling down the road. How will increased mobile usage affect higher education in the next generation or two to come? There might be greater visualization with more images, video clips, animations, and as we've already seen from some of the software, the lines become blurred between real human beings, avatars, and high-definition technology. There's also something called self-determined blended learning, which is analogous to the student-centered approach that we currently have in online learning. Will this learning be self-paced and highly personalized? Because of the expected ubiquitous nature of Wi-Fi, how will this affect the delivery of online courses? Will they be more self-paced? Will they be more personalized? What about increased connectedness and collaboration? How does the increased connectedness affect collaboration? What tools might we have possibly in Web 3.0 that will facilitate classrooms 20 or 30 years from now? How will they differ from today's classrooms, both on ground and online? Will online become the new norm? Will that become what we call the standardized approach in higher ed? What part will MOOCs play, or MOOC-like courses? A future trend that we can expect is that on-demand learning will increase. In my case, I'm what's known as a cord cutter, and I demand my TV programs and movies when I want them. I'm no longer willing to wait until the show that I want to watch happens at a certain point in the future time. I want it now. Well, same thing here with online education. We've become a very demanding society. I can pick up online libraries can be accessed in the blink of an eye. If our smartphones don't react within 5 seconds of our thumb tap, we start to get frustrated, to put it mildly, with some of us. With more apps on demand, can we keep up with that demand? Will higher education follow suit and become an a la carte system where students want just that course exactly when they demand it? Along with this, finding that work-home balance might be a challenge. Our devices keep us connected all the time. Is that good for us? How will students who today struggle with time management face that same issue in the years to come? What about changing roles for instructors, facilitators? Will we go from sage on the stage to guide on the side to coach on the bench? Well, that doesn't rhyme and it's not very catchy, but it'll do for now. Anyway, the onus will be on us as faculty and administrators to skillfully handle all of the technology that that future students will need, or help them when the technology does not cooperate. That may become one of our biggest roles as the paradigm shifts with tomorrow's technology. Let's talk about security issues in higher education in 20 or 30 years from now. You can pick up the newspaper on any given day and find ways that hackers have penetrated into databases. Today, according to some estimates, higher education accounts for 17% of all data breaches. The issue here is that higher education databases contain some of the most sought after data that attackers are looking to steal. And that's why Symantec ranked education as the third overall sector that's been attacked and security breaches have taken place. How will we deal with this when everyone is connected with internet access in 20 or 30 years from now? What measures can we take today that will thwart hacking efforts later on? This is definitely an issue of concern for the entire higher education industry, and one that we're counting on technology and defend the personal information of our students.